Welcome to another installment of the Mastercam Studio at ProtoTek. This exclusive video series features the exceptional functionality found only within Mastercam, the #1 most widely used cam software in the world. Here's the topic of today's video.
Today we're going to show you a new function in 2023 Mastercam called B-axis contour turning for our Millturn customers. Now this is going to be catered to specific Millturn machines, and what I mean by that is only B-axis style Millturn machines will be able to utilize this functionality. But if you have one of them, this is a great new option in Mastercam. So let's go ahead and take a look. So on my screen I have this turning part that I'm going to be cutting in my Millturn machine. As you can notice, the front here has some odd shape, and the outside of this part also has some shape that isn't a difficult shape to cut, but it can create some situations where maybe I have to come and attack from different angles with my B-axis head to get it all in one tool. So let's go ahead how we can do this in one tool path in Mastercam 2023. So we're going to focus in on the outside of this part first, and then we'll come back to that inside profile. Now if I just go to wireframe, we can kind of see what kind of shapes we're dealing with here. The outside is more of a spline shape, and this interior feature here has just a bunch of curvature to it, hard to attack from one stationary angle. So in Mastercam here, I already have my levels dialed up here with turn profile, and I also have some vectors on here. So to get this to work, we do have a little bit of construction inside of Mastercam to do, and I already have that done on my file, but I'll show you how I did it. So on here, on my turn profile, and this is going to be my finished chain here. This green is my finished chain. You have to create vector lines for this to work, and I created these simply by going up to wireframe and making line perpendicular. I can simply go to that and just drag this out, and I'm going to get a perpendicular line onto my part surface. Now anytime that we have to alter these, a very easy way I found to modify these is to come up to the wireframe menu and go to modify vector. Now if I go ahead and select the vector, you're going to get our dynamic gnomon automatically placed on there. If I don't like the side I'm on, I can always hit opposite here in my modify vector dialog box, and that'll switch it. And now I'd have the ability to come and grab this and move it in either an axis or an angle. Now in this type here, I'd like to move it to an angle. Now I didn't like where it dropped it, so I'm going to move it to -10 degrees by simply moving and left clicking. Now my vector is now changed to a -10 degrees from what I left it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the toolpath. So up in our Millturn add-in product here, our turning tab is going to hold all of our turning tool paths. Now if I go into our general tool paths, it's a brand new option here sitting here called B-axis contour turning. I can simply left click onto there, and it's going to ask me for a chain. So I'm going to go ahead and chain this just like I would regularly do with the lathe tool path. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my beginning and pick my end and green check. As soon as I do that, we're going to be in our new style dialog box on the left. So this is going to be all of our options now. Now one thing to keep in mind here is your tool has to be center compensation when you're defining the tool. That's really all you have to worry about here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a tool that I already have designated here. It's just a simple turn tool. Second page here, and if you're not familiar with these new pages in Mastercam, as you hover over them, they will slide out and give you the options of what they're looking for. As far as the machine, we only have one axis combination. In this case, it's upper left, so we'll be utilizing that one. As far as approach and retract points, you'd have the ability to pick them here. Our chain is selected here, so if we made an accident, a bad chain, we could go and refix it here without redoing any of our tool path. Our entry vector and exit vectors, I'm going to come in at a little bit more of a 180 degree angle, and I'm going to exit just normally at 90 degrees. Standard settings here, nothing really specific that I'm going after with this tool path, just your basic sets here. Now this one here is called our tool access or basic motion control page. So we have an automatic option, which I'll show you in a little bit, and we also have manual, which we're going to use on this one. Now anytime we go to manual, we're going to want to make some selections here with axis lines, and them are the red lines on my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and select them by this white arrow, and it's a simple click onto these vector lines that we made. Now I'm just picking the red ones. I could have picked that additional one that I showed you how to make them, but I'll just leave it out for now. Now the important thing here is there are some rules to this. And really, it doesn't matter where you're picking this, it's just picking that vector. But the one thing that does matter is the bottom of that vector has to be touching your chain along there. It can't be disconnected from that. So that's going to be one of the most important things you learn here is he needs to be connected. So with them selected, there's really nothing else that I want to select here. They fill into this selection box. Now I have a right click menu here to modify selection or reselect all if I didn't like my selections. And the other settings here really aren't going to pertain to this cut. They're just going to be your normal Millturn options. So I'm just going to go ahead and green check, and this is going to process on my screen. Now as it processes, and once it's done, we'll take a look at what we're really getting out of this tool path. Which we're going to have is a lot of movement on the B axis. And it's going to work a lot like a multi-axis curved tool path, where when the tool transitions from one axis line to the next, it's going to start to swing the B axis in this case. So let's go ahead and backplot and watch this run. And here's my tool. And you'll notice as it starts to work on these vector lines, my B axis is going to start to tip. And there we see a tip. There we see it start to tip and tip back, dependent on what you have for axis lines. Now let's say that I'm running out of travel potentially with the B axis head. I could go ahead and modify any of my vectors to maybe give it less tilt so it has more room to fit in an area or up near the chuck or maybe some of the shrouds of the machine. So you have full say here, just as long as you modify them vectors and leave them connected to your chain. So it's pretty cool functionality. Let's go ahead and take a look at this in full machine simulation. So this is where we can really see it. Now, my machine simulation currently is set to where it's ready to do the B-axis turning. So let's go ahead and run this and take a look at it in my B-axis machine. And one of the cool notes on this is, we can do inside bores, outside bores, really any profile we want. We can do that, and that went pretty quick, but we did see our B-axis turning as it went down that profile. And a few things that's going to give you is optimum cutting conditions for that insert. So we're not cutting more on the back side or all the way to the bottom. We're always cutting with the leading edge. It can be a very important thing to do while turning. So let's go ahead and another situation we have here on the screen is this interior bore. This interior bore is a little bit tricky. Now, with that geometry and the way it is, I can't just come in there with a regular boring bar. I have to come in here and I'm probably going to have to either create vector lines like we did there. Otherwise, we'll take a look at the automatic option. Now, if I go ahead and look at the automatic option, really the only change here is in the basic motion control page is going to be automatic. So I'm going to let Mastercam take care of it. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is you have tool angle limits that are really going to cater to you on how you can cut this or if you're going to get a full cut in there. Now in this case here, it defaulted to 0 and 180 degrees. I actually had to adjust them to -25 degrees and 210 degrees to get my tool to fully clean up and cut this part. So let's go ahead and take a look at this motion with the bore bar. And as I bore this out, you're going to notice that this is all automatic set. So Mastercam came in here and took care of this for me with the limits that I set, obviously, in the parameters. And it's going to work its way along that contour, and it's going to start to tip that out. And it's going to work all the way down, ensuring that my leading edge of my insert is cutting on there. So in this case, it's a perfect example of how good automatic really worked for me and took a lot of my thought process out of it in my programming time also. As you can see by the cool motion we get out of our B-axis contour tool path, this can be quite a useful tool path if you have a machine that has a B-axis. So I certainly hope you can go and try this tool path out if you have that machine. And as always, thank you for watching our videos.